better than consciousness info. Sonnet or TV7. You keep it hot 24/7. You got that black for 102. Sonnet or TV2. Yeah.
You are now inside Sonnet Studios, the House of Consciousness production. Black news presentation.
How you doing?
My question is, based off the fact that you are a lawyer, and lawyers specialize, some of them anyway, in arguing a case. I feel like it's an asset to the situation. Not the fact that you're a woman, but the fact that you have the ability to argue in such a manner that the people will get your point. So do you think that's an asset that will actually help push debate and a victory?
Absolutely. Like I said earlier, while I haven't done the big stage debates like the brother Polite, my whole career has been advocating my position. So I have a lot of experience in defending my position and being able to show support for my position. So I'm excited about it, and I agree with you, brother. I think it is an asset, and I think it's going to be a great collaboration. So I'm not. What is your position going to be, sis? I know it's not a secret. What is your position going to be? We haven't discussed how this debate is going to be broken down and whether or not I'm going to be assigned a specific point to argue. So I can't really speak to that just yet. That's still in the makings. But I'm sure whatever it is that I'm going to be arguing, I will be well versed. I will be prepared, and I will do it justice.
Mm-hmm. So, as a lawyer, let me ask you this question: What do you think about status correction? Now, I personally think it's a bunch of crap, right? But as a lawyer, what do you think about that?
About what? Say that again, brother.
Hold up. I want you to get on the mic. It's not clear, Get on your
I said, as a lawyer, what do you think about? You have a lot of brothers and sisters in the community that think they can file some paperwork and quote unquote correct their status. So, as a lawyer, what do you think about that? What is your stance on that?
Okay, so you're talking about the sovereignty movement. The people who are filing the affidavits and don't want their name in capital letters. And personally, I think it's bull. Can I say bullshit? Yes. Personally, I think it's bullshit. I've seen people in court make this argument and go nowhere with it. Here's the problem. The problem is that the people who want to be declared sovereigns, right? You're filing paperwork with the courts that you say don't have jurisdiction over you. So I'm trying to understand, if they don't have the jurisdiction over you, how can they declare you anything? I'm not understanding that. I don't understand that, because when you file that paperwork, which they never file properly, right? You have to file paperwork on notice of motion also, and you have to file a copy with the DA. They never do that, right? They only file these affidavits with the court, which are ineffective. But even if you did file it properly with notice on motion, you're asking the court to do something, right? Because a motion is a request to move the court. So if you're asking the court to do something, recognize me as a sovereign, how can you in the same breath say you don't have jurisdiction over me? Which is it? I don't see. It seems counterintuitive to me. And I've seen the case law. I've seen the law that the Moors rely on. I understand that they believe that this is maritime jurisdiction and all of that. But if you don't get those people that you are asking to recognize that, then all they have to do is deny your motion, and you're back where you started, with your name in capital letters. So if it's going to ever work, they're going to have to find a new way for it to work, because it's not working the way that they're trying to get it to work now.
Have you seen a lot of brothers come in with their feds on, and they coming in and they representing themselves? Talk about that experience.
I haven't seen it a lot. I've seen it a couple of times, and the judges really just allow them to go on their soliloquy. They stand there for a good 20 minutes, giving all the history of the national origin and how we are, original people on the planet, and then the judge goes, "Are you finished?" Motion denied. And then and that's it. That's it. There's nowhere to go. And I know you're making me appear. I'm here by duress and by force and da da da. And it doesn't work. It doesn't work. I've never seen it work. And I've never seen a Moor and they post on my page all the time, which, and listen, it's about information. I never deny anyone information, so post all you want. But I've never seen it work. I've never seen someone come into court and have a court acknowledge anything that they've said and allow them to leave with their case dismissed. I've never seen it done. I'm not saying it hasn't been done. I'm saying I have never seen it done. I've talked to a lot of lawyers. They have never seen it done. So if it's done out there, if it happened, somebody tell me about it because I'd like to know.
No, I'm just getting plugged in. I just got back from a meeting.
All right. She was talking about the status correction and, a lot of the stuff when the Moors coming up in there with their little notes and their history stuff. She said she never seen any of that stuff work when they come in there and capitalize their letters. I'll let her tell you. You can ask her a question about it. You can ask her a question.
The question would first be, what is it supposed to do? So it can make sense to me.
What is it? What you mean? What is supposed what do?
You was talking about status correction or something like that?
Okay. All right, here you go.
Okay. So the theory.
Who's on the line?
Listen.
I'm on the phone. I just got back on the phone.
She's talking right
okay.
now. Listen.
So the theory, as I understand it, from the Moorish perspective, is that we are original people of the planet. We are the sovereigns of this nation, right? And as such, the United States, because it has formed a corporation, in some of the statutes, corporations as persons or citizens, the Moors say we as original people don't fall under that description. And as such, we have been given what's called a straw man status, so to speak, right? So on our driver's licenses and on our, my birth certificate is not capitalized, but some people say their birth certificate is capitalized. And in the courts, in the captions for the court papers, your name is capitalized, and that the capitalization of your name is a fictitious entity, which is not really you, right? And so what they're trying to do is reclaim their original status as a sovereign being, as a sovereign person in the they don't even say United States, but I would just, in the wilderness of North America. Let me just go there real quick. You know what I'm saying? And so they endeavor with affidavits and things of that nature to reclaim their original status, and that is to remove the straw man, the capitalization of their name, that other entity. And so being that we are original people, we don't fall under the jurisdiction of the courts in this country, which is kind of crazy because, if something happens to the Moors, I'm pretty sure they're gonna sue. Like if there's a civil suit, if a Moor gets hit by a car, you're not suing for no money. You're not gonna go to court and file a civil suit so you can get your money for being hit by a car, to pay your expenses, your medical bills, your lost wages, whatever may have you.
You know why? Because they said that they are not of this land.
Right, but I can't imagine that if there was $1 million settlement somewhere to be had, that they wouldn't all of a sudden be of the land now. Because you want to file a civil suit, I don't know how that works. Where you are not subject to the law, but you then benefit from the law. I'm not sure how that works.
Yeah. Hello?
Yes, we hear you.
Yeah, I would like to build. I totally agree with everything she's saying. When we talk about status correction, I'm not talking about the Moors. I believe that's their disposition, though I'm sure one of them could call in and further expound. When we talk about being sovereign in our community, we use, euphemistically speaking, we use a different term because the connotation around sovereign has been misappropriated so much in our community that it takes on a context that is unrealistic. When we speak about being sovereign in the capacity as members of our community, we simply mean to be homeowners without a conditional interest, which is another way of saying establishing a perfected claim on one's property. That being the case in common law, that would have called the crown. The property is called the crown. And surface law, or meaning, or more colloquial terms in real estate, they would say you have a fee simple relationship with your property. It's reminiscent to that of an allodial title that a country may have when it owns a property in its greatest capacity without the imposition of encumbrances. So when we speak about status, when I teach about status, because I see people online, oh, yeah, she just shut down all polite stuff. No, I don't teach that. I don't teach that stuff. I don't teach all that other stuff people talk about. Our status correction, as it says in my lessons, ascertains your political legal disposition, your unlimited commercial capacity, and your genetic reference as it relates to nationality. That's what we teach. That's what I teach. This merely means that it is important for us to function as a political group or a body politic. So when we talk about status, we're talking about asserting what our political legal disposition is as a people, the rules of engagement, what we expect from municipalities, what we do not expect from municipalities, and having that agreement as a community to leverage that as an opportunity to become a political party, in which case we can lobby to vote one of our own people into position. So it's a more strategic plan than that of the likes of claiming something or separating ourselves from these people or that people with the rhetoric that has been employed by other communities. I can't best explain what other communities are talking about better than they can, but I kind of get the same gist that the sister gets. But when we're talking about correction status, we're talking about a financial disposition.
Lord Abba, if you take the time out to look on Sarnetta Studios, you will see in front of you a real practicing lawyer. She's on a murder trial. She's on a murder case right now. I'm calling you, brother, to give you the opportunity to ask her any question you may have about status and all of that. She's here, that she deals with this.
Okay, yes. Let me clear the air. We don't, in the Moorish Science Temple of America, teach on the pseudo-legal crackpot theories that you hear coming from certain Moorish groups. You have brothers that make all types of proposals, like the 14th Amendment was not properly ratified, so it's not law. You can do a crime, and then make a claim that the laws do not apply to you because you're some type of Moorish sovereign and we were on the land before the Europeans got here, yada, 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 yada. We of the Moorish Science Temple of America don't make those claims. But I would like to ask the sister, the lawyer, did she ever come across any of these people while she was in the courtroom?
Okay, here you go.
Yes, and just to echo that sentiment, I actually know that the national organization does not support a lot of what is going on under the guise of the Moorish sovereignty, quote unquote, claim. But yes, I have seen some of this asserted in court, and we spoke about this earlier. I've never seen it work. I've seen judges sit. I've seen judges listen. I've seen people point out the fringes on the flag. I've seen the court be delayed for a half an hour longer to let this person just go on and on and on because they just never shut the fuck up. Sorry. They, and the courts know. They know who they are. Right, because all the last name is Bay or whatever may have you, and they know. So when they come, the court is already prepared to allow you, to run on and on and on. And then as soon as you're done, the court goes, that motion is denied.
That's right.
Right. So you did all that for nothing, and you back in the same position you was, But now we done lost an hour going over this nonsense. But yeah, so I've seen it happen, but I've never seen it work. That's what I was saying before. And listen, I'm not saying that it hasn't worked. I'm saying I've never seen it work, and I don't know any lawyers that have ever seen it work. It doesn't work. I know it doesn't work.
I'm a Moorish American member of the Moorish Science Temple.
We got you on record. Thank you, brother.
A brief rundown. What this movement is dedicated to is, I'm going to start from here. Many people take Dred Scott, the decision from Dred Scott, for instance, and they use that as a false leash to confine themselves within a certain boundary. They never go past this boundary because they believe that the Dred Scott decision doesn't give them the power to do anything. So those who call themselves Moors or others who prefer the, the status correction thing, they say, well, we have to look at Dred Scott. And because we have something like Dred Scott, we have to create our own sovereign, aboriginal, indigenous, yada, 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 yada. But then, like you said, you watched and seen. I used to be one of those sovereign Moors, so I know what time it was. I'm not going to stay in nothing that's bogus. When I tested the waters on my own, it didn't work. But to get back to the point, if you go back to Dred Scott and you read the decision by the dissent by Justice Taney, or Tani, however you pronounce his name, and Justice McLean, they basically beat. And if you read any constitutional papers on that particular case, they'll say, like the one paper that I have, it says that Justice Curtis grounded Justice Taney's claim into powder because it was just bogus. That when the Constitution of the United States was ratified, there were quote-unquote Negroes in 5 states in the North who helped vote to make the Constitution of the United States valid. The narrative and many other things that we have right now are false, they're misapplied, and this is what Noble Drew Ali came to teach us. The 14th and 15th Amendment was only ratified to bring the Southerners back into the Union, who were at that time without power. So Noble Drew Ali was saying its application for us as citizens was not necessary, but because we thought, like many people, when they think about the institution, and I'm not going to be long with it, but I just want to say this point. When they think about the institution of slavery, they just think that we were all dragged over here in chains on these boats, but that's not how it happened. The first servants that came over, they were able to buy their freedom. They bought their own land. They were able to sue. They were suing Europeans over land and slaves and a whole bunch of other stuff. So many of the narratives that we have about slavery is just absolutely false. And when our people understand that, then they can start to look more into what we need to do to get on the right track. Noble Drew Ali said, one day the European is going to have to pay our people off for the work that they did in slavery and pay off with compound interest. Well, every time a reparations case, you being a lawyer, every time a reparations case comes in front of the Supreme Court, it gets dismissed. The last one they dismissed with, I think, without prejudice, which means that they can reopen the case once the proper application comes back. Now, the judge in the case was saying on the issue of race, that is not a judicial matter. That is a legislative matter.
Time out, brother. She want to say something.
Let me just interject here, because the most recent case that just came down in, I want to say November, December last year, was the descendant of a Civil War military personnel. Right? Mm-hmm. He sued the Supreme Court, and he sued the United States for his 40 acres and a mule. The argument was that he had a covenant. Basically, his family or the government owed his descendant 40 acres and a mule because that was the order from the Civil War general at the time. And because the Civil War generals had the same power and authority as legislators at that time, that the United States had to recognize that as a covenant. And they granted him, they ordered him, the United States had to honor its obligation to pay him as a descendant the 40 acres and a mule. That just happened. That happened.
That's interesting, and I'm going to look into that.
Yes, look into that. Look into that.
What you just said, sister, is something relevant. It's not something based off of hodgepodge pseudo-legal theories. It's based on something that's tangible, something that we can trace back and put our fingers on and say, yo, this is real right here.
That's real. And you got to understand that there's at least, there were...
Would you not agree? We're fighting for the position and we're calling ourselves slaves. But based off of that, slavery was absolutely legal, right? But if we recognize that we was kidnapped victims, that's definitely an illegal.
She said it's still legal.
First of all, let me just... No. Slavery is still legal. Okay, listen. This is the thing about reading text very carefully, which is why a lot of people don't do that. If you look at the 13th Amendment to the Constitution, it doesn't abolish slavery. Look at the text, because a lot of times we stop before the ending where it says except, right? So the 13th Amendment says that slavery is abolished in the United States and its territories except if you are convicted of a crime. It doesn't specify what kind of crime, because under our law that there are various levels of crimes, right? We've got misdemeanors, disorderly conduct, violation of ordinances, felonies, high crimes like treason, and it doesn't specify. It just says crime. So you could be convicted of petty larceny and enslaved under our Constitution. So slavery is not abolished. That is a fiction. That is something that black people tell themselves so they can feel comfortable. But it is not. It is not abolished. It is very real.
Okay, so I agree with you on that. So then what about kidnapping? Kidnapping is definitely against the law, and it was against the law when they was coming to Africa, kidnapping people, but called it enslaving or slaving people, which was legal. So what do we...
See what you got to kidnapping would have...
Hold on, listen.
Let me just interject, see, because you are missing the point here. The point is that there was no person status for slaves. They didn't view them as people, so they didn't fall within any of those laws. Kidnapping was exclusive to white people, Europeans. No, you can't kidnap other people except for with the respect. I believe the Moors had the friendship treaty, and there was a little something in there about you can't hold people as a result, like the United States can't hold Moors that were traveling in relation to that friendship treaty. But other than that, black people were not persons. So kidnapping, you could kidnap them. They're not people.
Hey, Lord Abba.
Yes.
Let me ask you a question, right? Let's say you was walking across the street and you get hit by a car. Will you take your case to court and try to sue them, brother?
See, and I'm glad you asked that, because I get the opportunity for the listeners to gain an understanding of what this, like, I'm an American citizen. I am a citizen of the United States of America. I have the right.
You're not a part of this.
Listen. I have the right to redress and grievance like any other American citizen.
Hold on, Lord Abba. Y'all say it all the time. The Moors say it all the time. You are sovereign.
Yo, Sonetta, there you go with your dog whistle. That's that dog whistle stuff. You know. Stop it. The Moorish Science Temple of America does not promote that stuff. And you know we don't, because I done told you like a dozen times. But it's good you're asking in front of a large audience, and many people.
Let's do it like this. My brother, Lord Abba, let's do it like this. Let's say there's been a social injustice perpetrated against you as a brother, right? As a Moor, right?
Uh-huh.
How then do you go about proceeding? Do you get you an attorney? Do you go in there? Do you have somebody in your community that can represent you to the greatest capacity? I guess that's where we home it in. Let you speak for yourself. How do you approach that situation, my brother?
Well, this is the best way is to use evidence. I would like anybody, send me an email, Lord Abba, LORDABBA@gmail.com. And what I'm going to do is forward you some of the early newspaper clippings that I have of Moorish American. See, when we went into court, we went into the court as the Grand Sheiks, and were even at that time recognized as councils. But ever since ever since Dwight D. Eisenhower in 1956 ended council of jurisdiction in Morocco, then we don't see any of this type of action in the courtroom where the sheiks are recognized as counsel. So the only thing left now was to go in just as citizens. So yes, now I would have a lawyer to come in and represent the organization, as opposed to a grievance against any individual of the organization is a grievance against the organization itself. So the organization would hire a lawyer and would come in and say, my client, the Moorish Science Temple of America, and one of its members, such and such Bay or such and such L, feels that his rights were violated, and he's here to, for his redress and grievance.
All right, hold on.
Definitely how we would approach it.
All right.
Yeah,
Hold on.
Brother, let me ask you this, okay? What if I appreciate your answer, but
I'll be telling y'all we need the bill.
Hold on, man.
About a bunch of other stuff. We need the bill for real.
All right, hold on. Time out. Let her speak. She want to speak.
I got just all right. So let me ask you this, and I understand what you mean about having an attorney represent the organization. But what if you have a personal grievance that you need to redress? Like, say for instance, you got hit by a car, right? So now you're injured, you need surgery, you got medical expenses, you lost wages, and things of that nature. You cannot then go into court and have a lawyer represent the organization because the organization didn't get hit by the car. The organization is not an aggrieved party. Only you are. So in that instance...
Hold on, listen, brother.
So in that instance...
I thought she was finished.
So that's basically my question. In that instance, would you then avail yourself of what legal remedies, and how would you go about that?
Well, I'm so glad you brought that up. I'm just so glad. And you would know better than me in this regard. I'm not, a student of the law per se. I know some basics. And I also know how things work organizational-wise. Now, yeah, I would go about it like any other citizen, depending on the car now. One of the things that Noble Drew Ali urged us all to do, he said, put nothing in your personal name. Do all business in the name of the Moorish Science Temple of America, meaning your property, all your property. So if I wanted to register my vehicle, for instance, I would register it as a company car. And my home would be the company's house. So all of these things would be in the name of the organization. This way, there's first and foremost no personal liability. There's no personal liability at all. So if I was in an accident in the company car, then and I got injured, well, I can still be represented by the lawyer in that capacity. In that capacity, I was injured in the company's car. The company has an insurance claim on this car, and a member of the organization was, in fact, injured in said accident. And, just based on my peripheral research, the lawyer can come in and still represent the organization, but I would have no problem, if it was personal and if it wasn't a company car, I would go right to the lawyer.
All right, Adam. Let's hear what she's saying.
Right. Well, I was just, and I appreciate that, but you changed my hypothetical a little bit, right? Students used to do that to me when I was a professor. I need you to stick to the hypo. You got hit by a car. I didn't say you was in the car and you had a car accident. You was crossing. That's all right, right? Because I purposely want to remove the, right.
I would go in as the individual.
Okay. Thank you.
Can I get back to my point, sis? Now you were absolutely right. They didn't recognize us as human beings.
So they recognize us as products and goods. Am I correct in that, right?
Yes.
Okay, so now I'm asking you, would any court of law uphold that based off of the fact that that particular judgment on us was based off of pseudoscientific information? So we all know that that's not true, that we actually are human beings. So are you telling me that today courts would uphold that we weren't humans? Yes or no?
Do you think that to be the truth or what?
I mean, I'm not sure I understand your question. Here's my question.
Let me make it clear for you. You said that we weren't kidnapped based off of the fact that the Europeans didn't consider us to be human beings.
Under the law. Remember, we got to qualify what we say, right? I'm not saying we were kidnapped. Fuck that. But under the law, right.
Go ahead.
No, I'm agreeing with you. I just want to make sure that
Okay, under the law.
Yes, under the law. I obviously agree that we were kidnapped, right? I agree with that. Right. But under the law, right? If we're looking at it through the lens of the law, then no.
Yes.
Okay, so let me understand. You're saying now that as us now, right, as the ancestors of those people who were stolen, who were kidnapped, that we can sue now the United States government for kidnapping our ancestors? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, because they were human beings, and the fact that you act like you wasn't is not even the truth. And so their law was based off of false premise. Now, slavery was always legal, so you can't sue a person for doing something that was legal.
Right, but it was legal for back then for the Jews to get gas, but they got compensated.
Reggie, what's up, doctor?
Reggie is an attorney.
How you doing? Well, actually, first of all, it is such a pleasure to listen to you, Attorney Shabazz. So that is, I am I did represent myself in a federal and state action as a pro se, and I'm probably one of the most important pro se litigants in the last maybe 4 or 5 years, because every 12B6 motion to dismiss issue in civil and criminal cases, my case is a deciding case on that matter. So I have more than 30 citations on the matter that I had. I'm not going to say just because of my agreement. I don't usually say too much, but I have an agreement with my party, so I don't talk about that. But the question I did have when you get a chance to it, Attorney Shabazz, I want to talk about the importance of local city laws versus state and federal laws, because my plan called Black City Sovereignty is based on Black people taking over cities and managing our city law, and because the local city human rights laws, if written correctly, gives us jurisdiction in our state and federal cases and courts, and it is there where we could deal with our local city human rights laws, be heard in federal court, and use that for binding cases. So when you get a chance, I'll listen, and you can respond to the other people, but if you have a chance, please respond to that.
All right, listen, Reggie.
Okay. Just so we're clear, you represented yourself, but you're not a licensed attorney, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, just so I want to be clear, we don't want to misrepresent anything on the Sonetta Studio show.
That's correct.
I think.
I said I was a pro se litigant.
Right. I know, but he introduced you as an attorney, right?
When you're
So
a pro se litigant,
you represent yourself. You're an attorney in fact, right?
You're binded as if you were an attorney.
Yes, you are.
It's the same as
Exactly. Yes.
I'm not a licensed attorney. No.
Right. Okay. I understand. I just wanted the people to be clear about that. Local elections are far more important than federal elections, because the local laws you actually have an ability to influence. Right? Because we can influence who's in our city council, who's in our state assembly. We really don't have that ability to influence who's going to be the president. I mean, everybody knows that the Electoral College and the president is already pre-selected. So that's just an exercise in futility to make us feel like we are participating in the American dream. But the local elections are very important. District attorneys, city council people, those are the people who are the responsible for the laws that are hurting us the most, right? Grand juries being secret in those processes, those are state statutes, right? So it's supremely important that we are involved in our local politics. I would say more so than federal politics. I'm not sure if that answered your question, or I hope it did.
No, it does. I think it's something that people have to understand, is because we're always misdirected to go into state and federal court, but local courts is the ceiling in which all of our rights can rise, and the federal courts is the floor, and the state paralyzed oftentimes the floor, so most of our rights are not heard, and so a lot of cases or issues are thrown out in federal court because the bar is just much more broader, but the civil rights laws, as you implied, in the local law. So that's it for me now.
Can I interject real quick?
Do it sounds like Brother Reggie knows what he's talking about?
Yeah, sure. I mean, on the short bit I heard, I didn't really hear a lot other than that, but on what he spoke on, he does sound knowledgeable. Yes.
All right, Brother Lord Adler, talk to us.
All right, the state court, our local courts are where we first bring our grievances. When we let's just say somebody doesn't like the local court's ruling and they take it to a higher court. Then we get into the district court. You know, like once we get into the federal courts, now we start looking at the broader application of the law. When we're looking at things like civil rights, which is usually a federal issue, these types of cases are heard mainly on a federal basis. If there are discrepancies at the local level, then it is without question that it is going to federal court, because you may be in some hick town somewhere where, you know, these European American judges are sitting there and the people that you're battling with are European Americans themselves, whether it be individuals, corporations, etc. And Jethro and them might win the case based off the fact that their uncle's friend is the judge. So now you have to appeal. And appealing, you go to a higher court. So I am not of the belief, based on my studies, I'm no professional, but I do studies, that when you take things to a higher court, then a broader application of the law is analyzed, even the constitutionality of it. So I have to disagree with Brother Reggie. Brother Art, a book that you can get is called The Law of Freedom and Bondage in the United States of America by John Codman Hurd. I believe it was written in 1871. And it details how slavery was illegal. It was a part of international treaties. That book lays out everything. Brother Polite, you will find that book of interest yourself, because we have to get to the root of the problem first. Who was kidnapping our people in Africa? Most people on the African continent were being